Welcome back, everybody, to Apron Bumps, episode 17. It was a big weekend for WWE wrestling. Me and my wonderful co-host, Gabe Nozid, who is here again. How are you doing today, Gabe? It is now Tuesday, August 25th, a few days removed from SummerSlam. How are you? We just did TakeOver yesterday, folks, and now we're about to review SummerSlam. But I'm going to ask my good co-host how he's doing before we kick off with the show results. How are you, Gabe, tonight?
I'm doing phenomenal,
That's wonderful. Always good.
I'm just here chilling with my brother here, Braden Mayhew, to the SummerSlam review. So I'm ready.
As ready as we shall ever be. But it was actually a good night of wrestling. Both TakeOver and SummerSlam had good wrestling throughout. I can't really complain all that much. And there was an atmosphere with the way they did the crowd sweetening and the way they shot the virtual fans. They're streaming SummerSlam, I suppose. They're getting the webcam dealy bob with the people watching digitally. I thought it was shot great. I thought there was a new atmosphere to this Thunderdome that I didn't see.
Oh yeah, it looked good.
It looked good, but I seen it on SmackDown and it wasn't really getting me all that much. I thought, this could use some improvement. And then on the actual pay-per-view, they kind of stepped it up and it felt bigger. Felt better. I just seen it on SmackDown on Friday, and where Jeff Hardy won the Intercontinental title from AJ, and it was kind of off a bit, and I was like, I kind of respect what they're doing here. I wonder how it's going to translate to pay-per-view. Well, it translated to pay-per-view well for the first one to feature it, and I thought that it was an improvement on this show. I was kind of skeptical of it on SmackDown, but they really did something here on SummerSlam in terms of.
Oh, did you see what happened on Raw?
I did. Should we address it right here and now?
We don't review Raw, so I don't see why not.
Yeah, so anyway, since we're on the topic of the Thunderdome, trolls have begun to fuck around, as we say. And they showed footage of like a KKK clan rally as one of the people watching. You could see it. They did a screen cap of one of the final pictures of Chris Benoit taken alive.
Oh, yeah.
And they did that for their screen, and people caught a few of these iffies, which is just going to make this. I don't even know what their response is going to be. Maybe tighten up on it. I have no idea what they do going forward. Can you really stop that 100%? Perhaps they can.
I think there was some people also against the BLM stuff too. So
so there was some racists in the digital crowd.
Yeah, all types of different people trying to voice either their opinions or their trolling, Mm-hmm. So
that's not what this is for. It's to make it seem like we have an audience, which we know everybody's watching at home. So,
the only opinions we're allowed to show is hey, it's the wrestler I like. Oh, and I heard that they instruct the viewers on when to boo and when to cheer when watching from the Thunderdome webcam. So
yeah,
it's interesting. Mm-hmm. So. And then I think I listened to Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer talk about how it's so controlling of WWE to tell the fans who to boo and who to cheer so they can show them on the webcam and all. But what are you gonna do? They're not there, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see how it does going forward. That was Raw. Now I don't think anything wacky like that happened at SummerSlam.
No, we would have heard about that the day or night of. So.
But anyway, at SummerSlam, it was a step up. I thought visually it looked very impressive, and it was a step up from the cold, sterile shows we've been used to for almost a 4-month, if not 5-month period now.
It did feel like a pay-per-view. Yeah, I don't want to say it felt like SummerSlam, but it did feel like, okay, this is something I can spend money on.
If it felt like a pay-per-view, that's a step up from this is just wacky silent show at the PC, So it's It felt bigger. It felt like a pay-per-view, and I found that to be good. So on the kickoff, not surprising, Apollo Crews and MVP got bumped to it. I made that pretty well as predicted. I made that clear. Actually, when we get into the opener, I will say I predicted most of this show's card structure right. I did, and we'll get into that. I had a couple things wrong, but so Apollo had a match with MVP. It was fine. I missed most of it. I tuned in to see MVP get set up for the toss powerbomb. So I seen Apollo lift MVP up, deliver his wonderful little spin powerbomb thingy finish, and pin MVP to retain the title. And then shortly after...
What's his finish?
It's the spin powerbomb, so he kind of lifts the guy up.
Oh, still?
Yeah.
He's been using that for a while, but I think he doesn't like that move. from what I've heard. So it's interesting that they're still making him use that move.
He's still using it to win matches as of SummerSlam 2020. And then shortly after he retains, I think they announced on social media that he would be defending the title against Bobby Lashley at Payback. They're doing 2 pay-per-views back-to-back. They just had SummerSlam.
I didn't like that. I didn't like how they're scheduling another quote-unquote pay-per-view, I guess.
In 7 days.
After SummerSlam, yeah.
You have 1 week of build. You have Raw and SmackDown after SummerSlam, and that's it. You know? Man, oh man. But it was fine for what I seen, which was just the finish, so I can't really speak all that much about it. But it was a pre-show match. Was what it was. Then we got to the main card, which kicked off with Bayley defending the SmackDown Women's title against Asuka. And as I said in my predictions, I would expect Asuka's first match to be at the beginning of the show here in the opener. And I did, in fact, get that right. So that's another thing, another good notch on my card predicting abilities. And
you're getting there, Braden.
I'm getting there for main roster, not so much for NXT, but main roster.
Yeah,
NXT
you're like, XYZ. We'll get there one day.
Yeah, one day. It's just they flipped the opener and the second match, and then the penultimate and the third, and it's just like I was off by like 1 match for how it was later. The only thing I got right was the main event. And then, oddly enough, the main event was the one thing I got wrong with this show, and we will get to that. Asuka and Bayley, they do their magic. Early on in the match, Asuka I guess she's having a flying DDT phase. She likes to hit that move all of a sudden. I think she did it like 2 times on this pay-per-view. She hit this flying wacky DDT to Bayley on the outside. Bayley ends up fighting back and hits her Bayley to belly and almost puts it away, but Asuka kicks out. There's another shift of momentum in the match, and Asuka is able to gain the upper hand. Then Bayley kind of cut her off and attacked her at the knee. So Asuka does her big like flying drop kick, and then Bayley was actually able to counter it into a nice looking knee bar. That was a good little transition. And then Bayley attempts her big flying elbow, and then Asuka ends up countering that into an armbar of her own. So a couple of big move reversals into submissions here. Sasha ends up getting on the apron. She gets kicked off of it for her troubles. And the end came when she went to go interfere again, and Sasha took Asuka's hip attack. Bayley was able to avoid it because Sasha took the bullet, essentially. And in this, off of hitting Sasha with said move, Asuka ended up getting small packaged by Bayley in the end, and Bayley did retain the title. I think they probably had like better matches when they were in NXT, but it was still good. It was still a damn good match to open the show. I thought the work was good. It was crisp, and it was what it needed to be. I wasn't too happy with Bayley winning again. I guess they don't want Asuka being the one to take the title off her. Maybe they want it to be a SmackDown woman, or maybe a call-up. I don't even know who you could even call up. I doubt there's going to be anybody. Maybe after the Keith Lee stuff. I don't know if they're going to call any women up.
Who are the women in SmackDown?
Barely anybody. They got Naomi, Alexa, Nikki Cross, Lacey Evans. That's like all I can think of off the top of my head. Then Sasha herself, which I guess we should maybe talk about it. So Sasha and Bayley have a defense at that Payback show this coming weekend. And Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, the most odd couple tag team you've ever heard of, is being given a shot against them at Payback.
What did they do to earn that?
I think they just fought off the heels on Raw, if I recall correctly. They just kind of had a segment where they kind of cleaned house of them and shut them up, and then I guess that warranted them a championship match. Just to do it. But maybe if they end up losing the women's tag titles right after Sasha lost the Raw women's title and she looked mad that Bayley didn't do more to help her win the match, are they going to turn Sasha against Bayley and finally do that? I've heard of rumors that that's the plan going forward, so maybe it's Sasha who takes the women's title off of Bayley. Maybe they break up the Golden Role models and Sasha goes after Bayley's belt since she just lost the Raw title, and now she's going to be focused on SmackDown more, which is her brand anyway. So maybe that's where they go with it, which I kind of just spoiled the Raw women's title match, but we might as well just get that one out of the way too. So I'll save it for its usual spot. I spoiler the result, but I didn't give my analysis of said match yet.
No, not yet.
So we're good there. And so yeah, maybe that's where they go with it, is just maybe something with Sasha and Bayley. That's like the only thing I could see going forward. You know, I'm not, but I don't know. What do you think? And what did you think of this match?
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm a bit sour, of course, that Asuka didn't win, but I'm not sure. Like, yeah, Bayley won, but Sasha like law. I don't know. This whole Bayley Sasha like angles are always like places I never thought they would be, and I don't know if that's good or bad. Most of the time it's bad, but I mean, I don't know. I didn't know how to feel about the match itself. It wasn't as high paced as I thought it could have been. Luckily, the Sasha one was a bit faster paced later in the night, but I don't know. It just felt really weird to have such a, it wasn't a dirty finish, but, it was still, an assisted win for Bayley. So,
yeah, like the fluky heel.
On SummerSlam.
The fluky heel roll up off the distraction and that sort of stuff, yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just one of those matches. So, I'll give it a thumbs. I don't care. Orange Cassidy, thumbs up.
Yeah, I'll give it an Orange Cassidy thumbs up too, which means like the most half-assed like thumb up ever, pretty much. It's like it wasn't bad. I thought it was a good opener. Like, nothing good opener. Nothing bad in the ring. Like the work was good. I can't say much more other than that. I would have done the double Asuka thing, but apparently that's not in their plans. So
nope, not yet. Or we don't know.
And then we got the Raw Tag Team Championship match. So Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins defended here tonight on this night against Andrade and Angel Garza. Montez Ford is, recovered from his horrible poisoning that happened a few weeks ago.
Graydon.
Yeah,
we never thought it would have happened.
No, thank God he survived. The poisoning's a scary deal. That could kill a man. You see,
that could get you in jail, but if you know you can commit any crime, like
yeah, and
attempted manslaughter and all that.
Yeah,
so.
But if you end up looking at the lights to the baby face or your team that you manage ends up losing to them, I guess it's all good because you lost in the end after nearly killing the dude in storyline.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think Montez Ford has a lot of potential. I think he's extremely charismatic. He's very athletic. He has the makings to be, if they were to ever break the Street Profits up, I think he might be able to do well as a single star in the mid-card if that were to ever happen. Or you could just have them be a long-term tag team. But I think he has superstar potential.
I definitely think that Montez Ford is going to be a star one day. Like, no offense to Angelo Dawkins.
No offense to Dawkins.
Ford just stands out, like, times 4. Yeah, in my opinion.
He's got personality for days and hella athletic, and that's usually a pretty damn good combo if you're signed to a WWE contract. Sometimes, but then sometimes they squander. There's nothing
that I don't like about Dawkins, but he does this weird like 360 like splash in the corner. That's something that annoys me. Other than that, he's all right.
So anyway, also Angel Garza is probably a guy who they're gonna build around. I think they're higher on him than they even are on Andrade these days.
You think that?
I think so. I do think so. Honestly. And I think
what makes you think that?
Just with like I just find they have him cut promos more. They have him be even though he got married and got engaged on NXT television, they pretend he didn't. And they have him like swooning the women and all that stuff. It's just they had him have a win over Kevin Owens not too long ago, a couple months back. I find that maybe I just think that they're using him a little more than Andrade. Even though they are a team, I find that they're giving Garza a little more better television opportunities, and that's usually the sign that they're high on somebody.
Yeah, I see. Understood, sir.
So they come out, Garza and Andrade, and the match itself was just standard tag team action. Ford showed off a lot of athleticism. He was kind of beaten down by both Andrade and Garza for a good portion of the match. It built and built and built to the point where Dawkins got the good old hot tag, and then he hit a brutal, big, massive spear on Angel Garza. There was a bit more back and forth, and Ford ended up getting tagged back in, and he got kind of kicked into Zelina Vega by Angel Garza, which sent her crashing to the floor, which alarmed Andrade, and he went to go tend her and see if she was all right and all that sort of stuff. And this ended up distracting Angel Garza, who said, come on, you're my tag partner. Let's figure out about that later, but let's just double team and try and get this done. And in that time, He ended up getting taken out by both Street Profits. They hit their double team cash out on him. And then Montez Ford came off the top with his wonderful, awesome frog splash to seal the deal. And the Street Profits retained the tag titles. And it looked like they were giving some dissension between Garza and Andrade, that Garza got let down by Andrade, who tended to their manager instead of, I guess, helping him double team. So I guess, I don't know, I think maybe Andrade will go babyface and Angel turns on him. I don't know, I could see it happening at some point, especially quicker now since they're not getting around with the tag belts at all, or else they would have won here. So
yeah, this Zelina unit is very weird because they've been adding and taking out people left and right. So
not necessarily. The only odd person that they took in and out was Austin Theory. I mean,
Austin Theory, yeah.
Garza's been there since he got called up, and he only got called up by circumstance because Andrade failed a drug test. So they wanted to keep Zelina on TV, so they brought Angel up from NXT. And then when Andrade came back, they just kind of stayed a faction. Then they added Austin Theory because, again, Andrade got hurt right before WrestleMania, so they threw him in the mix for a couple weeks, and then they figured he wasn't a good fit, and they took him out, and then they put him with Rollins, and they figured, maybe this kid shouldn't be on television anymore, and he hasn't been seen since. But, like, Garza and Andrade have been with Zelina for a good portion of this year, if not the majority of it, you know? So I think I don't know, I would think that it's going to end up culminating in something blown over between the two of them. And maybe Andrade gets turned on, he goes babyface, and Angel stays a heel. I don't know. What'd you think of this match, though, Gabe?
It was, to me, it was like one of those matches on Raw that happens, and then there's a commercial break after it. So, it wasn't a bad match, but it kept a nice speed. But for a pay-per-view match, it was but, I entrance with the Street Profits, with the cups, that's what got me the most.
Oh, yeah, where the cups were falling from the stage? Yep. That was a nice touch, yeah.
So I was thinking, if there was like a crowd, would they have done it still? Or?
No, I think without a crowd, they can do a little more explodey stuff that you wouldn't be able to do if there was audiences sitting there, right? So since there isn't, they were able to do a little extra stuff. So yeah, I thought it was a good match. Nothing great, nothing super special. Wasn't anything insulting, but it was just sort of there. Yeah,
just a traditional, like, I guess, title defense.
Yeah, a standard tag team title match, and that's all that can really be said for it. So then we move on to the loser leaves WWE no holds barred match. Mandy Rose against Sonya Deville. It's built. They took both ladies off television for a while for who knows why, and then they just brought them back this summer to give them a big SummerSlam match. But this feud has been going on since pretty much the early spring. And they switched it to a loser leaves WWE match because somebody just thought, I guess we don't want either one of these women losing their hair. Because they originally...
I have the actual reason
why.
Do
you? Go ahead, Gabe, and explain it.
Yeah, from the Wrestling Observer, they had said that, if you all know, Sonya Deville was, I think, a victim of like her stuff being stolen from her house or whatever.
She was involved. A guy was trying to break in, and he was found to have like an entire kidnapping plot where he was going to try and like abduct her from her own home. Yeah, it's really weird. It's really messed up, man.
Yeah, I just know that she has some court case going on against someone. That's actually really bad. So her lawyer said, we all knew that she was going to lose. I think we all predicted that, right? That she would
that Mandy would be the one staying on TV.
Yeah. So it was obvious that Sonya was going to lose because the whole Otis thing. So they were going to cut her hair off, but her lawyer said that in order to, I guess, have a better case, to just keep her hair. Mm-hmm. You know how they tell
don't change the appearance clients before the court date, right? Like
exactly that, and some people even like wear glasses when they're in court just to look, I guess, smarter. So it's just to keep her appearance, I guess. If they cut her hair, they'll make her look like, I don't know, just what's her name, Selena from Straight Edge Society or whatever. So Serena. So. That's why they didn't have the haircut. So, and she also has to, take care of this case.
Yeah, so which is why she's being taken off television. I mean,
yeah.
I think
I mentioned... So it all works out for her.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mentioned in the prediction that she might be being taken off due to the whole circumstance of, like, overcoming maybe a bit of the trauma and, of course, all the legalities that come with it is the reason that she's going to be taken off TV for a while. So I hope all goes well for her.
That's just, I don't know how I would, like, process the thought of, some stranger was going to come and kidnap you, and I just wish the best for her in the next couple of months or even years. So
Sonya tried to work hard, and she did her kind of threw in some stiff kicks, and she tried to work with Mandy. Mandy ain't the greatest worker in the world. It was what it was.
It had all emotion, but it didn't have the wrestling.
It lacked some fire in terms of the ring work, is what I'm gonna say about it.
Mm-hmm.
And from a former team called Fire and Desire, you would think there might be a little more spark to the ring work.
There wasn't
like
any fire.
Mandy's pretty limited.
Maybe some desire.
She's not horrible, but she's clearly limited. Sonya's actually pretty good, I think. She's got an MMA background. She can grapple. She knows how to throw strikes and that. But like, Mandy's selling wasn't where it needs to be. She's still got some work. She is quite green, but like they did what they could. I mean, they worked around the table spot and all that sort of stuff, and Mandy was able to get the win. I think she hit a kick of her own, I believe, right, to kind of finish the match. She did some sort of running strike to Sonya's head and pinned her. But as far as the action was concerned, it was a little lacking, but like I still think that they earned their pay-per-view shot. It may not have been the greatest match in the world, but they've had a great storyline going, and I'm glad they were featured on such a big card like this. I don't think it was horrible, but I don't think it was even a good match. But still, I was at least glad that they got a pay-per-view spot with all the work and promos that they put into this rivalry, and now it's finally blown off. So that's that.
I think it was weird how they celebrated what's her name, Mandy Rose's win. Mm-hmm. Like she just won the baseball game. Like this was a loser leaves WWE match, so you wouldn't have known that unless you watched prior to right before the entrance. So if you were to come in, I guess middle of the match, and you were to just see Otis come in with his briefcase, just raising Mandy everywhere, you wouldn't know that Sonya was leaving. So I feel like they should have really like send the point home, like, oh yeah, Sonya's leaving WWE, but it didn't really feel like that, and we all know that she isn't really leaving. So it didn't feel right that they just kept Mandy like, oh, she won, not, oh, Sonya's leaving. So
you thought some more focus should have put on Sonya kind of being distraught and walking out rather than just Mandy's celebration.
Yeah, even usually the winner would leave first so that the crowd could focus on the fact like, yeah, the loser is leaving once and for all. Like, like let's say Ric Flair's retirement match, Shawn Michaels' retirement match, even the heels who are like kayfabe leaving WWE, they all left last, and it just felt weird that this was like one of the first, in my opinion, where the loser leaves WWE match, they just left.
Now, granted, I can spin this that in kayfabe, since your career was on the line, you can believe that Mandy was very happy to stay employed.
that is true. That's very true. So I guess that makes sense too. But usually the focal point is that, oh, they're leaving. So it's always or usually the loser is the emphasis and the finish of the match. So
now, what do you think of the action? What do you think of the actual match itself? Would just kind of okay?
I'm not gonna lie.
Passable.
This match was
passable.
This match made me sleepy. This was what made me start to like, damn, I need to get a Monster or something to watch the rest of this pay-per-view. So
I need to brew another another pot of coffee to get through this one.
Another coffee, something like. I mean, it wasn't bad. It's just very slow, and the wrestling wasn't wrestling. It was just storyline, which isn't really bad, but what is all the build up for,
Yeah, so, well, I mean, there's an expectation that like the work's got to help the storyline, right? It's a time where like most people are very capable in the ring across most promotions now. So there's a standard to ring work in 2020. So
of course. That's why I felt sleepy in this match, but I didn't feel disappointed as I was with Cross and Lee. So
no, because like with Cross and Lee, you expected more to be done in the match. Whereas with this, you're like, yeah, Mandy's limited. We'll see what she can do. Maybe she'll overperform, whatever. But as with Cross and Keith Lee, those are two very capable big men. You expect a lot more out of that, right? So that's why it was disappointing in comparison. And I mean, Mandy and Sonya weren't main eventing this pay-per-view, so that's another thing, right? So yeah, I'd probably say I don't know, maybe the weakest match of the show.
I mean, it didn't really offend me or anyone, to be honest.
No,
so
it wasn't.
I'll give it an Orange Cassidy thumbs up as well.
No, I give it full on thumbs in the middle. Full on thumbs in the middle. Yeah, thumbs in the middle for me. Didn't think it was bad enough to give him a down. I won't give him a down, but I.
Oh no, definitely, yeah.
It was just a passable grudge match, but like for a long built storyline, you would hope that something like that would be more than passable. But as I said, so
and wasn't it a no DQ or whatever?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. For like one table spot and
they didn't even do the table spot.
I know. They brought it out for nothing. So it's like, because I've noticed that during this match too a lot, that I'm like, they're going for like a lot of, strikes and holds, and they're not really going to ringside all that much. Like a majority of that match took place in the squared circle, as they say. Like they didn't really brawl. I mean a little bit, but like I noticed
you just hate it when there's a table
and it doesn't get broken? I don't know.
In a no DQ match, yeah, like you said.
Maybe I can play devil's advocate here and go, since they get broken so much these days, I'm glad on the women just snubbing it. Pull it out and make everybody think you're gonna break it, and then don't. Be different. I don't know. Give them credit there, I guess.
But yeah, like you said, it was a no DQ match, and they weren't really taking advantage of that stipulation in the story.
No, it might as well have just been a regular singles match with a loser leaves WWE stip. With how they laid it out and how it was put together, but I digress. Moving on, we're going. Unless you have anything more to say about this bout.
Oh, my last comment. I was just gonna say, like, the hell with it. Make an Inferno match and watch them not use any fire. So.
yeah. It's like the winner has to grab a fire extinguisher and blow it out, and that's how they win, right? So. Anyway, we move on to the second big debut of this SummerSlam weekend, that being Dominik Mysterio having his first ever pro wrestling match in a street fight against Seth Rollins. And Dominik came to wrestle. His dad is one of the all-time great workers in the history of the industry.
His gear looked good. I liked it a lot.
I don't know why he had a hood that he never wore.
Oh, yeah, that was the only dislike. Like, the hood really got in the way about 90% of the time. Like, you could always see him and Seth
messing with it. So why is it there? Like, just have it be...
I genuinely thought he was going to remove his, like, top, but he just wrestled with it. So I'm like, this hood is just going to bother Dominik the entire time.
Keep that gear that way with the top and, like, the flashy, like, video game pants and all that. It's like the Mustafa, or even kind of like Rey Mysterio himself. I heard a lot of people say he looked like Glacier from WCW. I gotta laugh out of that. But gear aside, it did look decent, and just remove the hood. It's just a nuisance. Just get in the way.
To me, I think it's a good, like, top to wear to the ring and then just remove it. But yeah, so he just kept it on, and I was really confused. So,
as a person who first seen Dominik in 2005 when he was at ringside for Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio's like custody ladder match, it's very weird to see him now, an adult, wrestling in the ring. I don't know. It's just.
How tall is he? He's like. Is he 6
tall.
Something?
He has to be. He didn't look much smaller than Seth, and Seth's like what, 6 feet, 5'10" or something like that.
Yes, I think Seth is 6'1" or so. I don't remember 6'1" or 2.
Well, Dominik didn't look that much smaller than Seth out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, so he's impressively tall, and it amazed me. Like, his father being 5'6".
Yeah, his father's much smaller than him, but. As you can tell, since he is the son of Rey Mysterio, and he has been training for a while, and he's been into the training, and he wants to kind of pursue this, he has instincts that, some second-gen wrestlers have, some of them don't, but you can tell he gets it, and he's built up the athleticism to actually show those instincts, which was good. Seth, throughout much of the match, was kind of like one step ahead, and he always found a way to have the upper hand. And then every once in a while, Dominik would find a way to stun Seth. So Seth would have control, then all of a sudden Dominik would hit him with like a reverse DDT. Once in a while Seth would have control, then Dominik would kind of spring out of nowhere, catch him with an impressive looking drop kick. And every once in a while he would cut Seth's heat off and get a big kind of move, and then Seth would quickly snuff him out for much of it. So Seth was clearly probably calling this thing. He was probably, leading it through the whole way. He's a pro. He's been doing this forever. But all of Dominik's offense looked awesome. Seth was a great heel in this match, and taunting Rey at ringside. Then eventually Dominik's mother, Rey's wife Angie, came out, and Seth started going, "Hey Angie, you like this? Like what I'm doing here, son?" And just playing it up like
I think it was hinted
despicable
that he was
heel.
going to. It was hinted that he was going to hit Angie or something, because he was about to go for Rey.
Yeah,
and then they walked up slowly.
So he ended up, bringing in chairs and kendo sticks and tables, and Dominik was begging with Rey to not jump in. He's like, "Dad, you can be at ringside, but do not jump in and help me in this match. I want to do this 100% by myself." But he just kept on taking a beating. He tried to get in a big move to stun Seth. It would work for a bit, then he would get cut off, and this happened throughout much of the match. Dominik did a Russian leg sweep off the middle rope with, I think, a kendo stick. He had caught Seth off guard and did a nice looking Russian leg sweep off the middle rope. And then he came off the top with a frog splash, and I think it was through a table. I think he did the Russian leg sweep through the table, and that they went crashing through it. Seth is laid out, and then, of course, Dominik, in tribute to Eddie Guerrero and even Rey Mysterio, most of the Lucha guys from the 90s to present, hits a lovely-looking frog splash for a close 2 count. Seth ends up returning a fire with a super kick, and he hits him with this brutal power bomb. Something right
that was a snap power bomb. Holy crap!
Like Dominik had to be feeling that the next day.
Oh yeah,
holy!
I really flinched on that one. Usually power bombs are given left and right, but that one
was done with authority, to say the least. So the beating keeps on going. He's pretty much left to the wolves there, and as I said, Angie's out there, and Seth's kind of taunting her and being a prick. And in this moment, Dominik nearly gets a quick schoolboy roll up on Rollins, but he's able to kick out. Rollins and Murphy keep beating down Dominik. They go to basically like gouge his eye out, and that's when Rey Mysterio loses it, and he goes after them. Even though his son told him not to, he just couldn't watch this.
He eventually came in.
And then they end up getting the upper hand, as Gabe pointed out, and they have Rey handcuffed to the rope, and then Seth eyeballs Dominik's mother and Rey's wife, and Rey's like, "No, Seth, like I'm right here, I'm vulnerable. Attack me, don't go after my wife." And then Seth just stares her down, and you think, what the hell is this evil bastard gonna do? But then as he's walking up the ramp, Dominik attacks him from behind. They brawl back into the ring. He makes a pretty big comeback. He takes out Murphy. Seth is laid out seemingly, so of course Dominik goes to the well one more time. Goes for another frog splash, but Seth gets the dreaded knees up. And then Dominik is pretty much just gassed at this point. He's completely out of it. And Seth's taunting him, smushing his face and telling Rey to watch what I'm going to do to your son. It's the end of him. This is it. And then Seth gets up, delivers a curb stomp, pins Dominik in the middle of the ring, wins the match. Very good debut from Dominik. Very good match. I thought the work was very good. Dominik was impressive. If he wants to keep up with this, like we said with Pat McAfee, he's got a future. He's got great instincts. His dad was a wrestler. He seems to be picking it up great through the training. I thought this was very good stuff. What do you think, Gabe?
I think that this match, of course, not as good as McAfee's, but still a good debut match. The only thing I did not like is, I guess, the offense for both Seth and Dominik. Once Dominik had control, it was all Dominik. Like, Seth wouldn't really fight back, and then it would be Seth's turn to give in, his offense, and then it was just like good 50-50. Like,
I thought Seth got more than Dominik did. I felt Dominik.
Yeah, and then I started to realize that too. Like,
I felt Dominik was selling and was on the defense a lot more than Seth was in this match.
Yeah, usually Seth was either giving out the heat, or
Mm-hmm.
he was asking Murphy for weapons, or he was
Which was an
taunting one
extension
of
of
the
the heat.
Yeah, or he was taunting one of the Mysterios. So it it did feel longer, and you would just see Dominik just in pain, like not being hurt, but like he's just sitting there and agonized. But it was very seesaw, and I
Mm-hmm.
like to see some I like McAfee's. Damn it, I'm already comparing it to McAfee's match, but it felt very like back and forth. Like you knew that Adam can put in some work.
I thought McAfee was much more competitive with Adam Cole than Dominik was
Yeah,
with
it felt
Seth.
like a competition when I saw McAfee, but I don't know. I feel like they were just sharing the ball, Seth and Dominik.
Really,
So,
I thought Seth dominated most of that match.
yeah, I'm just saying, like it just didn't feel like a fight. It felt like, all right, it's your turn, and then it would be Seth's turn, and Seth would usually have his turn. So because he's heel, of course. So
right.
but a competition like the women's match, it would be back and forth, like the Sasha and Asuka match.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, later on, you saw them like switching submissions left and right, so it was just a very back and forth. Not back and forth, but you know what I'm saying. So
Exactly.
they would take turns.
What would you say in terms of your thought on the match quality? What kind of rating would you give it for our
I actually believed that Dominik would have won in the match. I did predict Seth, but I actually thought, like, damn, I'm going to lose a prediction. Dominik might win this, and that was all because of, I guess, how believable of a babyface Dominik really is in the ring. And so I
chip off the old
respect
block.
Dominik. Yes, sir. I respect Dominik so much for his character in the ring, and his wrestling offense. Like you said, it looked crisp. It looked
Hurricane
nice.
Rana's nice, like springboard DDTs. Like he's getting it, man.
This is weird. I like his 619 a lot, not because it's his father's move, but because he does it on the opposite side of Rey. So if you notice, Rey would come if we're looking at.
You're right. He does do it on the opposite side where he goes for the swing.
I really like that. So it's the smallest thing, but it's now that's Dominik's 619, not Rey's. So that's that way he made his own. So I think Dominik, if he were to have, I guess, another match, we would see more, more in-ring stuff from him than the character of Dominik, overcoming the terror of Seth Rollins, injuring his father's eye and all that. So I think Dominik has a great future, like I predicted. So I think this match, if I were to rate it, I would give it thumb and a half.
Yeah, I give it a thumb and a half as well. Solid thumb and a half for sure. So
those are mine.
After that, of course, we got the second women's championship of the night. Second one for Asuka. She challenged Sasha Banks to try and regain the Raw Women's Championship. That pretty much got stolen from her by Banks and Bayley about the month before. And Asuka and Sasha. Go on. Go say what you were going to say.
You notice how her entrance was? She wore the coat again. Asuka. Like
for both matches. For both matches, she did. Yeah.
Like, usually when there's a wrestler with a second match, they don't come out with their gear. They walk out, already, I guess, in their ring attire.
Yeah.
So, it was interesting that she had the whole entrance like she didn't have a match before. So I found that really weird.
Yeah, it was odd.
Even in the indies, people do that too. So it was, I didn't know what they were trying to do with that. Like, oh, Asuka, it's okay, just act like nothing happened. I don't know. So, yeah, that was an interesting note to take.
Yeah,
that Asuka came out with her robe still.
I don't know, and I guess maybe like the first match with Bayley didn't tire her out too bad or something. I don't know. I have no.
That's what it seems like.
Because she wasn't really like selling much, but then she didn't really.
Yeah.
I don't think she took much of a beating in the Bayley match, whereas in this match she took something that was real ugly, and we'll get to that in a second. But Asuka and Sasha have just this special chemistry whenever they work together. They never have a mediocre match, ever. They understand each other. They know how to work with each other. It's unlike anybody in the women's division. They know how to get a great match out of the other. They worked super stiff and snug throughout the entire bout. including Sasha coming with it was like a sunset flip powerbomb off the apron to the floor, and that looked like a real crappy landing for Asuka in this match. That was brutal. Did you see that powerbomb, Gabe?
Onto where?
Banks to Asuka on the floor.
On the floor.
Yeah. This might have been the part of the show where you said you watched something else, so you might not have seen that part of this match, correct? Well, what happened was...
No, I skimmed this match, so I didn't really see that. I was wondering what you meant by Asuka took something hard.
So
I only saw the part where they were just doing a bunch of mat wrestling and submissions at the end.
That was the best part.
It was good reversals.
It got great by the end. It was good to start, but then it got great by the end. They worked super hard. Banks ended up targeting Asuka's knee because she'd worked earlier, so she kind of took her out at the knee early on and worked around it. They traded shots. They worked smooth together, like smoother than butter. It's crazy. Banks with the brutal sunset flip powerbomb to the outside. I don't know how Asuka didn't die. She didn't. Apparently she's fine. Even tweeted that she protected herself properly after the match to everybody. And I know how to take this, she said, or something like that. She tweeted about it afterwards. And then Sasha ends up kicking her in the head right afterwards. So she rolls her back in the ring and kicks her real stiff in the head right afterward and gets a close 2 count to believe she wasn't concussed over both of those happening back to back. Asuka ends up returning fire with a reverse face buster off the top rope. It wasn't super long, this match, but everything they did was so impactful that they talk about taking advantage of the time you're given. These are the 2 best workers in WWE in terms of female performers. They proved it here tonight. The final stretch, which Gabe mentioned, was perhaps the best part of the whole match. So Asuka locks in the Asuka lock, but Sasha is able to reverse it into her submission, which is the bank statement, the crossface. And then they did a series of slick reversals and escapes from each other's submissions until Sasha was able to escape for good and get the upper hand. They did try to do that same hip attack spot from the Bayley match earlier.
I did notice that. That was good.
Yeah, and then Bayley seen it coming and leaped off the ring apron, and Banks kind of went, because Banks was kind of was getting back to her feet and all that, and she's like, oh, you didn't. It was like, oh, well, I took the bullet for you, but you wouldn't really do it for me. And in that moment, Asuka is able to hit a spinning back fist to Bayley, who did at least try to jump back up on the apron after avoiding the hip attack. So Asuka takes her out with spinning back fist. They grapple some more, Banks and Asuka do, and then Asuka is able to lock in the Asuka lock on Sasha. Sasha can't escape the hold and submits, taps out, and Asuka reclaims the Raw Women's Championship. They showed Bayley kind of looking distraught at ringside. Sasha looked pissed that Bayley wouldn't properly take a bullet for her like she did for her, and now she just lost her title. I think they're playing up something there, and we'll see what happens at Payback this coming weekend. But this match wasn't super long, but it was great for what it was. It was good to start, and then became great by the end. Another solid thumb and a half for me on this one.
I don't know if I have the right to rate this, but I'll agree with you there. Did you know that Asuka took a photo session afterwards with the belt in a cup of noodles costume?
I did not know that.
And I think they talked about it on, I'm not sure if they talked about it on Raw. I saw a picture on Twitter where, I don't know, someone was talking about it in the ring. Yeah, I think that's Lana. I think Lana was talking about Asuka the night after. And yeah, it's just, it's just edited, my bad. But no. Yeah, Asuka's in a cup of noodles costume with the belt. So
how about that?
That's interesting.
So before we go on, the only role Retribution played on this here show was WWE showing highlights of what they've done on Raw and SmackDown in the lead into this pay-per-view. There was not one live appearance by Retribution throughout the whole show. They had no presence on this pay-per-view whatsoever. And you know it's weird that WWE would be showing these rebels destroying their shit? Shouldn't you not want these
That was real, yeah.
Shouldn't you not be doing that? I know it's all storyline, but my gosh. You're giving these guys network pay-per-view, network television replays of their destruction of your property, you think, okay, fuck these people, we don't want to be showing this. But nope, highlights everywhere. Jeez.
Yeah, and they won't even like broadcast. I mean, the wrestlers that left them on like difference of opinions, but they're gonna show like kayfabe wise the people who's destroying their like equipment,
hacking
their
their shows, messing things up.
You know, terrorizing the wrestlers and like crew backstage, and they're giving like a whole promo package on it too, the whole vignettes and everything, and like, you know, if this was real, I mean, I wouldn't put any attention on them just to make it feel real. But
so that when they do show up, it's like, oh man, they're interfering and they're invading the show again.
I think the best like example of how to treat an intruder is the Shield's debut when they had a match, their first match. I think it was TLC. They entered through the crowd because they weren't wrestlers for WWE at the time. They were just like, I guess, ordered like militia, you know. That was their character. They were never like, oh, these are wrestlers. Like, no, these are just, they entered from the crowd. You know, the only off thing was that they had music, but they entered from the crowd because they weren't from the backstage wrestlers. So it just made sense that they came from the crowd.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of that. It's like, it's clearly they're promoting it as a big angle to try and keep people watching, but really, it shows such cooperation that it just makes me facepalm. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like...
Yeah.
But anyway, now we move on to the co-main event. I got the main event order wrong. I predicted this would be the main event of the show, and it wasn't, and that's pretty much the only real thing I got wrong, other than I didn't know where Sasha's match would be. It ended up being before the 2 world title matches, which is where I probably would have placed it anyway in card order if we didn't do the highlight back-to-back thing. But this is pretty much the one thing I got wrong in terms of card structure was the order of the World Championship matches. So we're going to talk about the first of the 2, the penultimate, which was Drew McIntyre defending the WWE Championship against Randy Orton. And this was a match between 2 seasoned vets, if you will. They both came into the company young. They took completely different paths. Orton stayed in the system and was able to become the veteran that he is, whereas Drew kind of faltered out in his first run, and he left and reinvented himself for years before they, of course, re-signed him and brought him back. And throughout much of the match, Orton was outsmarting Drew, while Drew didn't let Orton kind of get too much offense in, and when he was getting kind of caught off guard, he would try and snuff it out. So I thought this was kind of like how you described the Dominik bout, where it was kind of back and forth. Like Orton would get his shit in, then Drew would kind of use his savvy to outmaneuver that and get his shit in. So it was very methodical, which is what you would expect from a Randy Orton match. But I find Orton is so into that style that he can make it work, and Drew had no problem working that more stiff, slower style. Like his previous title defenses against like Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler, they were much more fast-paced, whereas this was more slow and paced a lot more differently. But it was all about getting in your big hits and then kind of getting the guy into a submission for a bit, and it kind of told a nice ebb and flow sort of story throughout. I would say would be the best way to describe it. I thought it was great for what it was. They both hit their big stuff, or they tried to anyway. Drew never got his kick. Orton attempted the RKO, but I don't think he ever got it throughout the match.
Yeah, none of them hit their finishes, I believe.
They teased it, but neither one of them was about to hit. But they did hit their usual stuff. So Drew hit his big suplex thing on Orton, the big what would you call it? Big belly to belly, where he kind of throws the guy from the top rope and kind of hangs on by his legs. He hit that on Orton. Orton hit his crisp looking power slam. He got his big hanging DDT in there. Drew got the future shock. So they traded their traditional signature moves quite a bit throughout, but they never did quite get each other with a finisher, which was interesting. And Orton ends up setting up in the corner. This is the finish. He went to go for the punt, but Drew was able to catch him with a power bomb as he ran toward him. So Drew countered into the power bomb. And then Drew, off the power bomb, decides he wants Orton to know that his finish is coming and sets up He's firing up hard. He's really getting into it. The atmosphere is actually adding to the match. The crowd sweetening, and you see all the people clapping behind Drew as he's setting up for the Claymore. I thought that really added a whole lot to this world title match. I thought the atmosphere really benefited Drew here in this match, and it got me even more into it. And then he goes for the Claymore. Orton snuffs it out and tries to go for the RKO, but Drew is able to slide Orton into a backslide schoolboy for the pinfall, and he got a 3 count right the fuck out of nowhere, and it was like he caught Orton. Orton went for his finish, and he caught him with a pinning predicament, and he got the win. And Drew
now that I did not see coming.
No, that was probably the one thing. Well, at the end of the main event was something I didn't see coming either, which we'll talk about. But I did not see that finish coming. A backslide, winning a world title match in 2020. But you know what? Since you don't see it all that much, I was fine with it.
Yeah, I liked the finish. Yeah.
It was all about Orton outsmarting him throughout much of the match for being the wily veteran, and then it was Drew who outsmarted Orton in the end.
I think that was a way to protect both Drew and Orton. So
with keeping the title on Drew, though. With keeping the title on Drew. Because I thought Orton was going to win here, and he didn't. So that was also surprising to me as well. So with the way Drew won, it completely leaves that wide open for them to have more matches and the feud to continue in the months to come. And Orton knew he got pretty much outsmarted, and Drew got the win. And I thought the atmosphere was great for Drew's title defense. I thought he worked as if there was. I mean, he's always been working as if like there were people there, but I felt he could feel the energy from like the Thunderdome setup, and it really added to his entrance and his work in the match. And Orton's always a pro. He's been kind of on a roll with the work with Edge and everything lately. I thought this was a great match, and it was my personal favorite from the SummerSlam card, and I would give it a 2 thumbs up with, fully. I would say it was a great match, a great title defense for Drew. Huge win for him. Even if it was with a backslide, he still pinned Orton somewhat clean. Might not have been with the finish, but he still pinned him 1, 2, 3. And I think it was still, it may have been done to protect both, but it was still like Orton got antsy, went for his finishing move, and Drew was able to counter and catch him off guard and outsmart him. So I thought that was an awesome way to end it. What did you think of this match, Gabe?
I also skimmed this match too because it was starting to become like 12:30 for me here. So I did pay attention to the finish where they just kept trying to outsmart each other for the pin, and like I said, I did like that because it was different than the usual, and it did protect both the wrestlers from having someone, I guess, hurt in their reputation. But no, they're both good, and they also had a great showing in the entire match from what I've skimmed through. So, and from what you're telling me as well. So I don't know if I have a right to rate again. So I mean, I'll just agree with you with the 2 thumbs up. But I just want to ask you 2 things.
Yep.
How'd you feel about them spamming? First of all, they always spam this throughout the show. The whole tagline, "You'll never see it coming." Like I think they said this tagline like more than like previous like taglines in any pay-per-view.
Believe me,
I'm so many times.
I am so used to Michael Cole and company shouting out the taglines for the pay-per-views a million times and all that stuff that like, yeah, I heard it, but like I couldn't even be triggered by it because it's just so commonplace. You understand?
Well, my thing was they just like tried to shoehorn that phrase whenever they could. Like, that's the perfect time to say "you'll never see it coming." And so.
Yeah, it was forced, but I've heard ridiculous forced shit on commentary for years now, so it's like, yeah, it was cringe, but you hear cringe from commentary all the time. It's like,
hey, I mean, used to it or not, it's still kind of weird,
Yeah.
So and the second thing, I wanted to know how you felt because we don't review Raw. So we predicted, me and I think it was Brandon, that Keith Lee would have showed up in SummerSlam, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Instead, he showed up at Raw. And now he showed up to confront Orton. He showed up with the blandest, like,
I hated the theme music change. I thought it was ridiculous. It hurt
too because they had the whole intro, like the bask in his glory, and then it had the worst transition
ever
into whatever generic like stock music they had.
They got to give him his NXT theme. Never use that abysmal piece of shit ever again. Give him his NXT theme.
What do you think happened with that? Why do you think they said, "Oh, let's give Keith like this theme song"?
I don't know. Maybe just Vince thinks that a guy singing his own theme is ridiculous, even though he had HBK do it for decades.
I was about to say Shawn Michaels.
And Shawn is like one of the most well-known wrestlers in history, and he did that. So, and I thought that made Keith stand out. I don't know. It was a ridiculous Vince change. You know, it's Vince, and I didn't like the gear they made him wear.
John Cena also sings his theme song too, so it's.
And I thought his gear change was unnecessary as well. Like, what was wrong with what he wore at TakeOver? You know, like, why does he need to be in this?
It did look a bit weird, but it still looks like, I guess, something Keith Lee had in the Indies, in my opinion. But it's still, he had better gear in NXT.
Yeah, keep the NXT gear, keep the NXT theme, make an improvement when he actually takes on Orton at Payback. So, what we just talked about here, folks. So, right before before the world title matches, they announced that Keith Lee was, in fact, going to start working on the Raw brand from this Monday going forward. And last night, he had a confrontation with Randy Orton, which led to them having a match, and I think it got thrown out, or he lost by DQ because Drew ran in and battled Orton, and now there was a no finish, and now him and Orton are going to have, like, I guess, a legitimate match at Payback this Sunday. So I guess we'll see how that's going to go. I mean, I guess we'll see how it goes. I imagine if he gets a clean win. I can't imagine that with Orton being a world title contender, but, like, I don't think Keith should lose either. I don't know how you book that.
That's
thing.
Weird. Yeah, you're right.
I don't know how you book that thing. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully they give him back his NXT regular gear and theme, and they make an improvement from his Raw debut, because there was some unnecessary changes that I think made it kind of fall flat, and it really shouldn't have. But it did. So now we move on to the actual main event of this show, which was surprising to me to be Braun Strowman defending the Universal title against The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Strowman's had a mediocre run as Universal Champion, so during this feud, it kind of gave him a bit of an edge, where he's kind of going nuts feuding with somebody who's pretty well batshit crazy. So Braun is, like, going insane with The Fiend coming after him, and, you know, The Fiend's crazy, and it's a battle of two crazy monsters, essentially. And so The Fiend has a great entrance. I don't think that needs to be repeated. It's just definitely something to watch every time he enters an arena. And now it feels, since they were in an actual venue, it felt great to see him come out with the decapitated head lantern and all the lights. And I love The Fiend's entrance. I think he's got a hell of an entrance.
It's one of the best entrances, I think, in WWE.
So Strowman goes for some power moves in the beginning once he comes out and enters. And then The Fiend's able to cut him off, and Braun keeps trying to hit some big stuff. They brawl for a bit. Strowman ends up hitting his power slam quite early on, and The Fiend is able to kick out. And then they just kind of brawl up the ramp. They fight backstage for a while. Backstage, The Fiend's able to hit Sister Abigail for a near fall, because it's Falls Count Anywhere, so he pins him in the gorilla area. And then they kind of brawl all around that gorilla area until they brawl right back out to ringside. And The Fiend's trying to go for the mandible claw. Strowman fights out of it. Strowman is able to get The Fiend in the ring and hits him with a power slam, but it doesn't keep The Fiend down. Then Strowman, who is kind of a tool for doing this for more reasons than one, goes and gets a box cutter, which I think he'd used earlier in the match when they brawled around ringside. They kind of each attacked each other with it, but Braun remembered it was there. He brings in a box cutter. Looks like he's going to stab The Fiend or something, but instead he just decides, I'm going to be Tommaso Ciampa tonight, and I'm going to cut away the canvas and the foam and expose that hard wood that's on top of the ring here.
The exposed wood.
Ooh. It's very deadly to fall on that, even though they all survive to the next day and work on Raw and SmackDown and NXT right after a big event like that happens. They take a bump on it. So he takes all the time in the world to cut this big spot out with this wood. That gives The Fiend about a million seconds to recover. And in doing so, Braun gets caught off guard. He gets hit with Sister Abigail on the exposed wood. And then Bray picks him back up, nails him with another Sister Abigail on the exposed wood again. So Braun took 2 bumps on the wood. The Fiend pins Braun Strowman and wins back the Universal Championship. At least it was the right result. The Fiend didn't need to win the belt. But I don't know. Are they just going to hotshot it? Because this is what I never seen coming. Roman Reigns hits the ring and he spears the hell out of the Fiend. He then talks some shit. He leaves to go to ringside. He then spears the hell out of Braun Strowman. He gets a steel chair. He beats the hell out of Strowman with the chair. Just completely destroys the Monster Among Men. So I guess Braun is maybe getting phased out of the title picture. I'll explain something right after this. Then after he's done killing Strowman with the chair, he runs back into the ring. He spears the Fiend again. Says he's just what do you say, like a freak in a mask, and that you two have been holding this title. It's always belonged to me. He holds the belt up, and it's clear that Roman Reigns is being inserted back into the Universal title picture. His shirt said, like, wreck everyone and leave, which is essentially what he did here. And I've heard this was a heel turn from some people, but I don't think so. It just seemed like regular ass kicker Roman inserting himself back into the world title picture.
Like a tweener from what people are telling me.
That could work, but I didn't see anything overly heelish. He just beat the shit out of two guys. I guess beating one guy with a chair is kind of unnecessary, but I didn't...
I just feel like, since Braun is the face, and, he just went for Braun right after, like, taking care of the Fiend, felt kind of unnecessary, so that's why I feel like people thought he was a heel, but I think he's just a tweener, because they want him to be, like, I guess, Moxley and Stone Cold, like, he's just a badass. But
yeah, well, he did come across.
Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns.
Yeah, he did come across as a badass. He destroyed these guys, which
definitely. Yeah,
it kind of rained on
that he's here.
It kind of rained on the Fiend's parade a bit, just fucking squashing him right after he wins the belt back. And now they've actually booked for Payback a triple threat match for the Universal titles, with the Fiend's defending against both Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns. And
all right, quick prediction. Who's gonna take the fall in the...
I don't know, but this got to be just hot shot the belt to Roman. So why fucking even give the Fiend a win at SummerSlam here? Because unless they're gonna have Roman win his first title match back, you know how high they are on him. He just came back. He's got a ton of momentum.
This is a weird spot for the Fiend too. Here's what I'm thinking. If they're gonna try to protect the Fiend and Roman for a bit, they're gonna have Braun lose and give the title to Roman maybe, and then build it up to Survivor Series with Roman and the Fiend.
Yeah, maybe the Fiend and Roman's gonna be a long-term program. It'll go through much of the fall. Payback, a lot of answers will be answered, but if they just gave the Fiend the belt back for hold it for a week, just drop it back to Roman, that's gonna be all kinds of lame, dude. All kinds of lame. Just because that's hotshot booking, and it's just, I don't particularly like it. But I did not see Roman returning on this pay-per-view. I didn't think there was any sign of him coming back anytime.
Yeah, that really did come out of nowhere.
He went home when COVID really hit, and there were a bunch of cases, and it was in WrestleMania season. He just said he wasn't coming to work till he felt safe, and he's been gone for months because of that, and now he's back, so he must feel like it's kind of somewhat safer, even though I don't know if the climate of the world has improved all that much since March. But I think
he just feels more like, I guess he understands the whole COVID situation now better than, when it first broke out.
Yeah, so
right before WrestleMania, that's when it really started to get worse. So.
Yeah, but he feels safe to go back to work now. He's going to be back on SmackDown, I guess, on a weekly basis, and it'll be interesting. He's got an intensity and the way he works the power style very well, and he's athletic. He's another ex-footballer who ended up transitioning well to pro wrestling. I mean, I know he gets a lot of his hate, but he's had great matches in his run. He's had memorable moments. I just think him just ending the Fiend's reign a week after you just give the belt back to Bray Wyatt is going to do a lot of harm to Bray. So I don't know. I mean, but then again, if you have the Fiend win, but I guess you could have the Fiend pin Braun again, and Roman's not involved in the decision, and then they just feud, the two of them together to Survivor Series or something. I don't know, but I just smell Roman winning the belt back at Payback this weekend. What do you think, though, Gabe?
I think I don't know. Ever since the Universal title went to SmackDown, they've been taking it less seriously. I mean, even the WWE title at SmackDown, I felt like, I know it was the second world title because the Universal title was on Raw, but I still felt how important the world title was because AJ had it and all these other people until it went to Jinder Mahal. That's when I felt like that was a shot. But ever since the Universal title went to the Blue brand, it just felt really weird So I never took it seriously, and so I have no real regards to it. So giving it back to Roman, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't care. So it's just an odd predicament for the Fiend, in my opinion, because that's even though he's on. Yeah, I think the Fiend should stay out of the title picture as much as possible because someone has to win the belt from him. You know, dropping the belt wouldn't make sense for his character. So it's I personally think the Fiend in the title picture will tarnish the Fiend eventually, like we saw with Goldberg, and I don't want that to happen again. But it's looking like it might with Roman. So
Goldberg still signed for 2 years, baby. Still got 2 years.
You didn't have to remind me that, sir. But it's okay. Yeah, I mean, other than I guess the current situation that the Fiend, Roman, and Braun are in for Payback, I think the match was pretty okay.
Yeah, it was decent
for a main event. Yeah, it was decent, but for a main event, it didn't feel like the last match. The world title match felt more, main event if anything.
Yeah, Drew and Orton had the work, and then these guys were only put last probably because Roman was coming back, and they thought
that's most likely why. I was like really surprised when I saw after the Asuka match, like holy crap, the Orton McIntyre match is next, and not Fiend and Strowman. So the whole reason why is to make Roman look strong as usual. So.
Well, very much a thumbs in the middle main event. Nothing bad, but nothing special. And I thought Roman's return was well kept. It was a well kept secret because I didn't see him coming back at the pay-per-view. His return genuinely shocked me. I did not see that coming.
No one. There was no rumors or anything about it either. So that's how genuinely surprised how no one saw it coming. It really was. So that was good. And that was even part of the match. That was at the end too. So yeah, I guess that's SummerSlam.
So as far as the wrestling is concerned, I thought there was quality wrestling up and down this pay-per-view. I thought the Thunderdome atmosphere really worked for this first pay-per-view done in it. And I give SummerSlam a solid 1.5 in terms of the quality wrestling throughout. Sure, there was, a mediocre main event like with TakeOver 30, but the rest of the show I thought was very good throughout. So solid thumbs in the middle for me. What are your whole final consensus is on SummerSlam, Gabe? What is it?
From what I've seen, I'd like to give it a thumbs up and maybe a half because I do have to give it to, like you said, the venue. It did feel like a pay-per-view that I did pay money to watch this event, and the Asuka matches were really good, especially the Sasha one. The Bayley finish was weird, but the Dominik match, I actually felt really invested into that story-wise, and the Orton and Drew McIntyre match, that felt like the main event, and Roman Reigns came back. So those are my positives. My negatives are whatever I didn't talk about, like Mandy and Sonya, and I guess
that's
the quality of
the
most
finish
of these matches.
and the not pulling the trigger on Asuka being a double champion was a bit of a down.
That was yeah. I don't know why they even booked her to have.
I know.
I guess 2 opportunities if they're not gonna put both straps on her.
I know.
So.
It was a completely missed opportunity. So it wasn't without its kinks, but I thought the wrestling throughout was very good.
Definitely, yeah.
Just like with TakeOver. So anyway, now with that, our analysis of the show and the review totally done out of the way. The plug line is open unless you're gonna do the old Brandon Moyes rebound, the basketball back to me. That's entirely up to you.
I'm gonna just repeat what I've been saying for the past couple reviews and predictions. I'll be here, apron bumps for the next couple of weeks, reviewing whatever comes up in the wrestling world. Because who knows it? Gabe knows it.
So, of course, you can, you probably listen to our podcast on Anchor. We are available on Anchor to listen and download at any time on demand, but also we are available on all of Anchor's affiliate platforms. So you can also listen to us on Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Copy RSS, and my personal favorite of all the platforms to listen to podcasts and music for, my taste is, of course, Spotify. So you can listen to us and download us on all of those platforms. But if you also happen to be watching and I guess listening to the video form of this podcast and you enjoyed what you heard from myself and Mr. Gabe, give the old Bracer YouTube channel a subscribe. It would be very much appreciated. So until we return in, I assume we're going to be going back in the fall. Would be the next time we do this here thing. For Survivor Series weekend, I guess would be the next thing unless something else comes up before that. Oh, no, I'm wrong. We will see you in a couple weeks because the All Elite crew have All Out coming up in the beginning of September. We do that. We do all the All Elite Wrestling pay-per-views. September 5th, I believe, is the date of All Out. So we will see you then for the next All Elite show. Until next time, folks, we will Spanish fly on out of here and talk to y'all later.